Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Malaysian Prime Minister Muhammad Mahathir's visit, what it means for both our countries on an economic front, areas of mutual cooperation, combating terrorism, from developing countries moving towards developed countries. We'll be talking about all of that. I have with me Zameer Ahmed Awan Saab, who's an ex-diplomat, also an economist. Thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Raja Kaisar Ahmed, who's a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for being with us today. Asif Durrani Saab, who's a former ambassador. Thank you for joining us today. Zameer Saab, like I was saying, the areas of mutual cooperation with Pakistan and Malaysia, of course, we have a long-standing relationship with Malaysia. Muhammad Mahathir, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, spoke. Prime Minister Imran Khan also spoke today. There was a lot of talk about cooperation in areas on an economic front. Of course, we have a lot to learn from Malaysia. Also, there was talk about combating Islamophobia, the rise, the recent attacks in New Zealand. Other than that, there was also talk about working towards mutual goals, moving towards becoming developed countries and not just developing countries, which is common to most Muslim countries. What do you feel about this visit? What do you think will the benefits be, and to our long-standing relationship also?
First of all, I want to say that Malaysia is a role model for the whole Islamic world. They are Muslim, but they are also developing their economy, their country very well.
Right.
Pakistan and Malaysia have many things similar. We both are the Muslim countries, we both are the developing countries, we both are facing almost similar challenges, and we have very long and deep-rooted friendship.
Right.
We can complement each other, we can help each other, we can support each other. The areas where the Malaysia has a good experience, we should learn from the Malaysia, and the area where we can help Malaysia, we should extend our full support to the Malaysian development. Mahathir Mohamad is a visionary leader. He lifted the Malaysia from very low to very high. Malaysia got independence after 10 years of Pakistan, but they are much better and much stronger economy now. And today the world is based on economic strengths. Malaysian experience can be replicated and can be implemented in Pakistan. Our Prime Minister Imran Khan, he is fond of Mahathir Mohamad, and they have a very good understanding, and I hope and I expect and I am sure that in the near future we will have a lot of cooperation with them.
Right. Raja Sahab, of course, other than the long-standing relationship with Malaysia is there, and as Islamic countries also, we enjoy a certain relationship. But like Zameer Sahab is saying, they got independence 10 years after us, and they are doing economically much better than Pakistan. So there's a lot to learn there also. Do you think that this relationship will lead to more fortuitous, results for both Pakistan and Malaysia, particularly for Pakistan on an economic front?
Well, thank you, Maro. In the first place, let me have a look on this relationship into the matrix of Pakistan's redefined foreign policy spectrum,
Right.
which Pakistan has unleashed after Imran Khan has become the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So we are seeing a kind of an opening in Pakistan's rather a very sluggish policy which had been there, and Pakistan had stood dormant at international level for quite some time. So it is when Pakistan is proactively taking up its foreign policy alternatives. Prime
You're
Minister,
very right that our foreign policy is actually really picked up.
yeah, so it's going to get a kick start, and at the same time Pakistan is exploring all the alternatives, and in this pursuit Pakistan is first trying to harness all those traditional allies where Pakistan used to have and Pakistan used to enjoy a leeway in those countries. So Pakistan is reconnecting to those countries, and if you see that Prime Minister Imran Khan has is on a diplomatic move, he is going and visiting one country after another, and that is how he is trying to reinvent the wheel of Pakistan's foreign policy. And that is how the kind of anachronistic foreign policy which Pakistan had, Pakistan is trying to overcome by the new level, by the new level of input, by the new level of dynamism which we are seeing and experiencing right now. So when it comes to the second part of this question which you have asked me particularly, that yeah, indeed Pakistan and Malaysia, they have a lot in common, but they have, you know, particularly Pakistan has a lot to learn from Malaysia, because Malaysia is a kind of role model for the developing world, because the way they have managed to achieve development from the status of the developing in a third world country, and the way they have achieved a kind of economic transformation that has led to their outright relevance into the Asia Pacific, is again something which is an eye opener and which is a lesson for the rest of the countries. So yeah, indeed Malaysia stands as a beacon for the developing countries like Pakistan. And this Mahathir Mohamad's visit, and preceding to this visit, Imran Khan has also visited Malaysia. So it in itself signifies that the relational trajectory between both the countries, between bilateral states, it is on to a positive mode. And the way we have seen Imran Khan, he had been repeatedly citing the example of Mahathir Mohamad in his speeches, in his public orations. So when coming of Mahathir Mohamad in itself becomes a very symbolic incident given in that pretext. So indeed this it's a good diplomatic success.
Saying, I think you're very right when you're saying that it, in a sense, it's reconnecting, and it's with our allies. And this is what the Prime Minister said in the beginning, that, you know, he wants to go back and build on the kind of relationship that we had with our natural allies, Malaysia being one of them, and he's working towards that. So there's a lot to learn there.
Of course, you know, Pakistan, as I was mentioning earlier, had been in a deep slumber for quite some time, and it's not something which had got to do with competency or something to do with the will, because Pakistan was deep swamped into domestic mess and a war against terrorism and an existential threat from within. So when Pakistan was coping up with an arch rival India and, you know, belligerent eastern and western borders, so Pakistan was you know, somewhere very deadly swamped into this and dogged into this mess. So now, you know, when Pakistan is slightly coming up from that abyss, and Pakistan is trying to rejuvenate itself, and Pakistan's foreign policy is achieving a headway, it is indeed appreciable, and an optimistic inkling is there that by it might secure something good for Pakistan.
Right. Ji, Asif Saab, you're, as a former ambassador, our relationship with other countries, I mean Malaysia particularly, with this visit, what kind of a message do you think it sends to the rest of the world? What kind of a message do you think it sends within the region, this reconnecting between old allies, you know, bringing back, restoring the kind of relationship that we had at one time with Malaysia, for example, with other countries? Of course, we've seen with Saudi Arabia the way that the Prime Minister has tried to connect with them again, and then his visit to Malaysia earlier in the year, which is now being reciprocated.
Thank you very much. I think Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad's visit is a good omen here for the bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad is a legendary figure in his country. He has a great contribution in bringing Malaysia to the world stage, economically as well as politically. And here we have Prime Minister Imran Khan, whose charisma has also worked. And I think there is a very good chemistry between the two Prime Ministers. Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit a few months ago to Malaysia did generate positive energy, and Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad is reciprocating that visit. Having said that, I should also add that in diplomacy, relationships are already there. They never die. But yes, there are sometimes priorities which come. As far as Malaysia is concerned, we can learn a lot. Malaysia has got certain advantages. It's a Muslim country, but at the same time, it's a very moderate Muslim country. It has maintained a very beautiful balance between different minorities in the country. It is blessed with tremendous natural resources, oil plus tourism. Tourism because of its moderation, and its per capita is close to $28,000.
Right.
It's more than around 20 times than Pakistan. So, but most of all, its population is less than half of Pakistan. So here we have certain lessons to be learned from Malaysia's example. And then they have given a level playing field for the investors in the country so it can prosper. For us, the best lesson we can learn is tourism, where we have the tremendous potential.
Economically speaking, what do you think that we can learn from Malaysia? Of course, tourism is a huge
Tourism
part.
is a very big industry.
Right.
In whole of ASEAN, if you look at it, it's a $3 trillion economy, out of which trade is around 2.6 trillion. But in the services, they have $706 billion of industry. So we should not underestimate the potential of the tourism, especially in our country.
Considering that we are blessed with so many natural, natural sites, as Pakistan is a beautiful place, and I think we can really build on terrorism. Sorry, not terrorism, tourism.
Tourism, yes. But you rightly said, but we were also suffering from terrorism.
Yes, that's what
And we are in a region where we have had perennial tensions with India on one hand, and on the western borders, it is Afghanistan, which is unstable, and its instability is causing problems for Pakistan.
Right.
So therefore, and also the Middle East is also a burning region where there are tensions, and then we have to maintain a balance in our relationship with the regional countries. So Pakistan has had a delicate walking, we had to tread through very delicate paths. But here in the Far East, in ASEAN countries, Malaysia is a leading country. And then in terms of our exports, ASEAN countries can play a role, and in which Malaysia can play a leading role, because both with Malaysia and Pakistan, they have free trade agreement, and which can give us a foothold to have not only markets in Malaysia, but also in other ASEAN countries. And more than that, we will have an opportunity through Malaysia to become the dialogue partner of ASEAN, which we have not been able so far, but I hope that with the influence of Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, we'll be able to surpass those problems which has been hampering our membership as a full dialogue partner of the ASEAN countries.
Right. So Mirza, when we talk about tourism, and Durrani Sahab also mentioned this, he said that it's a lot of the factor of tourism as far as Malaysia is concerned has a lot to do with moderation. Of course, they are a Muslim country, but they're a moderate Muslim country, and the threat of Islamophobia is something that Mahathir Mohamad spoke about. The Prime Minister also spoke about it. We've seen what happened recently in the Christchurch attacks in New Zealand. Certainly, it's a huge threat. What kind of, what lessons are there to be learnt there, in your opinion? Of course, we are a nation that has been fighting the war of terrorism for a long time. We have been, trying to eradicate that menace from our society. We've been working towards it. How far do you think we can learn from this?
I remember when I was a young boy, at that time there was a lot of tourists coming to Pakistan from the Western world. And then, unfortunately, in 1980s, Afghan issue started, jihad started, and these jihadis were the heroes, and everybody was supporting them. The West was supporting, Islamic world was supporting. But once they pulled back Russian forces from Afghanistan, these jihadis, these heroes become the terrorists. Unfortunately, Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. We have been victimized for almost 4 decades.
Right.
But Alhamdulillah, Pakistan Armed Forces has taken action, and we are the only country in the world who has so major achievement against the terrorism.
Right.
We have control to a maximum level. and Alhamdulillah today Pakistan is much safer place, and I believe with this law and order situation, Pakistan's tourism will boost. We have on the one hand the natural beauty. We are a blessed country with the abundance of natural beauty.
Right.
We have the highest plateau almost in the world, that Deosai, highest mountain. I mean the highest peak is the Mount Everest in Nepal, but
right.
the second highest, the third highest, the fourth highest. We have so many other highest peaks in Pakistan.
But we haven't really been able to give our industry of tourism industry the kind of boost that it needs, the kind of potential that it has that we can explore.
We have the potential, and government of Pakistan has taken some measures. First of all, the visa regime, we have introduced the friendly visa regime.
Right.
Up to 70 countries almost they are getting online visa or e-visa, which is a major step toward promoting the tourism. On the other hand, under CPEC we have upgraded our network of roads. The areas which were very difficult to access but very pretty and very natural beauty, now they are accessible. The road network has been improved, and the government is encouraging private sector to make the hotel industry, boarding and lodging and all other facilities. I'm pretty sure in the coming days the tourism will improve. However, for definitely we have to learn from the friendly
Malaysian
countries,
example, like Malaysia.
Like Malaysia, because there are not only the infrastructure but also a soft culture, soft power is required. Malaysia, being a Muslim country, is entertaining so many foreigners. Why not we?
The kind of tolerant,
yes.
you know, climate that it has.
Yes.
The kind of, you know, it has its own, the tolerance, the natural, I think the word to use, moderation probably.
Yes.
That also we need to inculcate within our social structure, so that, you know, we can boost the kind of terrorism, attract the kind of terrorism that we want, attract the kind of tourism. That we want. Sorry.
And one thing more, that we must learn the Malaysian experience. Malaysia is a diversified country.
Right.
They have a huge population of Chinese origin. There is a population of Indian or Pakistani, Bangladeshi origin. There is many Arab people there. Malayan people, I think, little bit more than half, but they are living in a harmony. They tolerate each other.
Right.
The Muslim go to the mosque.
The toleration, the
yes.
moderation,
yes.
The friendly,
yes.
the kind
yes.
of
yes.
kind of atmosphere that needs to be there to fester tourism is really important for this industry,
yes,
and so to our economics basically.
Yes. So Pakistan has the full potential to exploit its tourism industry.
Right.
And government is taking some initiative.
Right. I'm going to go to Raja Saab. Raja Saab, of course, we've been talking about tourism, but moving on, as far as the economic, you know, learning from Malaysia is concerned on an economic front, mutual cooperation in those areas is concerned, a huge initiative that is being talked about is the car operation plant. That the Malaysia, you know, there's an agreement that the Malaysians want to put up in Pakistan. Do you think that that will, of course, you know, maybe help our economy, move things for us?
Well, Marukh, that is again the part of the chain of events which are taking place and which are putting a kind of a positive and optimistic inkling for every Pakistani, because
right.
you see the way different airlines are resuming their operations back to Pakistan. Right. The way different companies, they are going to start their manufacturing plants in Pakistan, like you are mentioning one, there are many other like that as well. And at the same time, the way Pakistan is becoming a hot destination vis-a-vis economic investment in the aftermath of CPEC.
Right.
And all of these things, they cumulatively reflect to a kind of optimism which is there. So indeed. So another thing which I believe that Pakistan can, you know, really hold Malaysia as a symbol or as an example for that matter is that the way they have reconciled their ambitions and realities. So the way they have indigenized their development, keeping in view while considering their own vernacular conditions and their own strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
So the way they have emerged out to be a rising country, despite all those you know impediments which any developing country faces. So all of these things, they indeed put Malaysia on a very high rank the way they have done it. But particularly if you see again what I feel that there is a kind of a synergy between the present matrix which is there in Malaysia and which is here in Pakistan, because if you see both Imran Khan and Mahathir Mohamad are widely accepted populistic leaders. Both have a very wide reach and both are considered to have a huge fan base.
Right.
And at the same time, if you see the electoral campaigns in Malaysia and in Pakistan, again they hold a very synchronous kind of a proposition that Mahathir Mohamad was also voicing against the corruption which is taking place in Malaysia.
That
you know, again a kind of the similar grounds over which they have contested. But at the same time, I believe that the way Mahathir Mohamad has dealt after coming into power, there is a great lesson for PTI-led government in Pakistan as well. If you see Mahathir Mohamad in his recent speech, not very recent, but after assuming the office of the Prime Minister, he denounced a few of his promises which he believed that were unachievable and unrealistic, and he told his people publicly that they are not achievable and they were electoral promises, so we are not going to run after them, we are not going to go for a wild goose chase. Right. So this is where I think PTI government, which also has had made certain astronomical promises and some slogans which might be very good, but
which might just be electioneering or
electioneering or might be very appropriate when Pakistan has achieved certain level of development.
Right.
Because the issues which we are facing right now, they merit serious attention than those like building 5 million housing units. Like you see, there were certain things which, like austerity measures, the way PTI.
You think the austerity measures are not important?
They are indeed important, but at the same time, they might have realized that the niceties of the statecraft, you cannot much play around with them because they are to remain static by and large.
Right.
So there is a very little room.
You think that, right? You think that perhaps they can own up to them, like you're saying Mahathir Mohamad did, and said that these were made in the heat of the elections, or these were made as part of our election slogans, but they're not
there is
really
another
achieved.
thing as well. To have the economic stability within a country, you need to have the political stability.
That's very true.
Again, you see the kind of reconciliation Mahathir Mohamad has achieved with his rival Anwar Ibrahim. So again, that is something unprecedented. He has contested election against him, but now he has reconciliated just because he believes that this undue consternation or this undue confrontation is of no avail. So, well, Pakistan can also learn a lesson.
I think that's very important. I think what the points that you're making are very important. I think that there are lessons to be learned there from his leadership, from his benevolence in the sense of letting go and reconciling with his.
And sometimes, we hold very static positions. We have to be certainly benign on certain things. Something letting go the things is more a wise and a prudent approach rather than sticking on.
Right.
So, because at this critical juncture of time when Pakistan, as I said in the earlier prelude, is opening up, Pakistan is trying to connect, Pakistan is trying to reach, Pakistan is trying to darn the entire wheel of its development, of its foreign policy. At this point of time, I think they should be more and primarily concerned with these things which are good, which are happening and which are delivering Pakistan good. Because this kind of undue and unnecessary political instability might distract them from the real cause
road to prosperity,
and that will cost them politically as well.
Very
so
true.
You can hold on this towards the third and the fourth year of your government,
but
then you can unleash again your agenda of opposition and coming to that, going tough on your rivals and opponents. So what I believe, again, you see what is happening right now in India. In the last year, they have went onto hard grounds, head on with one another. Previously, they had been, to have a smooth statecraft is
cooperation on all fronts is needed.
Very important for kind of economic avant-garde, and at the same time to have the political stability and to have implemented all those which they have promised in their electoral campaigns, they need to have a kind of a serene and a calm political environment as well. Right. This is also which they need to learn.
I'm going to go to Durrani Sahab. I'll come back to you. Ji, Durrani Sahab, isn't it true that the point that Dr. Raja Sahab is making, it's very relevant that perhaps, for the larger goal of prosperity and for moving forward, perhaps there are some unimportant or perhaps not as important slogans, part of slogans which were things which were said in the heat of the moment in the elections, which the government can decide perhaps not to give importance to, and in the interest of the larger goal of prosperity. Isn't that true?
Well, I'll beg to differ slightly. The reason is that Pakistan is far ahead as far as democratic order is concerned in the Muslim world.
Right.
As far as freedom of choice and freedom of expression is concerned. So I think Pakistan can, some Islamic countries can learn from Pakistan's experiences. But right now I think we should focus on the visit, and the visit is about economic cooperation. And for that I think the areas have been demarcated. It is IT, it is telecommunications, it's
the manufacturing plant,
car manufacturing industry, agriculture, and halal food. Malaysia is a very good example of exporting halal meat.
Yes.
Here, Pakistan is the 4th largest milk producing country in the world, but its exports in the halal meat is far, far less than its potential.
Right.
So here is the experience from Malaysia we can learn as far as processing of halal meat is concerned. And that can immediately fetch you more revenues. Tourism will take a while, because for that we lack infrastructure in tourism industry. We can identify the areas, but again building hotels and roads and all infrastructure, minimum it takes 2 to 5 years. So this is what you can now, yes, you can lay the infrastructure, you can lay the foundations.
Immediately you can
work IT, on. We are one of the leading countries in the world. We should tap our potential. We can do a lot in both Malaysia and Pakistan in terms of their investments, because Malaysia's sovereign funds, their volume is tremendous.
Right.
And through their sovereign funds and Pakistan's expertise in IT and telecommunications, both the countries can do a lot in terms of joint ventures. And it is very important that we should look at those doable projects which can give yield within a shortest possible time. So I think there's a tremendous potential, and we should continue on hopping on those areas where we can immediately enter into cooperation, and then of course we can go on to medium range and long-term projects for the two countries.
Right. Zamir Sahab, there was also talk about, if you look at the Malaysian model, they have dealt with corruption. And corruption is a huge part of, before the government came in, of course, it's been a huge part of their campaign also before the elections, and even afterwards, the Prime Minister has been very categorical about his stance on corruption and accountability. And the government has been working towards that, towards cleansing the system, towards bringing back the looted money, which is a lot of that accountability that is being talked about. There are a lot of lessons we can learn from Malaysia in that quarter also.
Yes, Malaysia has a similar situation like Pakistan, and even that the corruption was at the very highest level in the previous government. Mahathir Mohamad has taken measures, and some of the money has been recovered already. He has some good success in that one. And Pakistan should also learn this experience, and we have the similar issues, and the solutions should be similar. But one thing more I want to focus. Currently we have a very good cooperation with Malaysia in the sector of education, higher education. Thousands of Pakistanis are studying in Malaysia, especially for the PhD. I'm an educationist, so I always go to the different universities for lectures, for conference, and always meet the people who has got the degree from Malaysia, the PhD degree. The quality of education in Malaysia is very good, is just like the British standard, but the price is very
much lower.
Much lower. Above all, that Malaysia is offering scholarships very liberally. Almost all of the PhD and master level programs are offered on the scholarships. So this is an opportunity where Pakistani should go more and more. On the other hand, I know few good Pakistani professors, they are teaching in the Malaysian universities. So the cooperation is both way.
Right.
Our students are going there and our professors are going there teaching the Malaysian people. So this is very good cooperation area.
But we need to learn, but of course we need to learn for our own education system also, considering the kind of...
We are lacking basically lack of, I'm an engineer scientist,
yes.
I know we lack the funding, the research lab facilities. We do not have that advanced equipment and instruments to conduct the very precise or a very high level research. So we have to go to foreign countries. This is one area. The other area is the industrialization. Malaysia has not done in very deep research for launching its industrialization. They just facilitated the foreign companies and asked them to invest in Malaysia. They provided them cheaper labor, tax regime, and all other facilities. And most of the Japanese companies has invested initially in Malaysia. So their economy
But they have
was
attracted
boosted.
that kind of investment, and we need to work towards that.
Yes, most of the branded product of Japan was manufactured in Malaysia. Once they have certain level of expertise or certain level of the base of industry, they have then improved it at their own indigenously. Now Malaysia's industry is relatively very good. I mean, I cannot say it's better than the all over the world, but at least much better than the Pakistani industry.
And their manufacturing cost, of course, is much less than the West.
Yes. So these are the things which we need to focus more: industrialization, investment, transfer of technology, and cooperation in the education sector.
Right. Moving on, Rajasab, I want to talk about, of course, there are areas of cooperation. We've been talking about that. As far as a huge, a big point that was both addressed by the Malaysian Prime Minister and by Imran Khan also, was the fact that there is, as Muslim countries, most of them, we are developing countries, and Malaysia, of course, is in a much better position economically on all different levels, on whole different levels as far as, when compared to Pakistan is concerned. But it is still a developing country. We haven't been able to transcend and move on to the developed country stage as far as the Muslim countries are concerned. Why do you think that is? And what lessons are there to be learnt for all, us Muslim countries which are developing and not developed, Malaysia and Pakistan both?
Well, to be precise, Malaysia can be termed as a rising country. We cannot again term it as a developed country, but it is a country which is far ahead than the status of a developing country, but is slightly, somewhere lags than the status of a developed country. So because our parameter to again, evaluate a developed country is biased given the Western standards of economy and all those indicators, again, they come into the point. Yeah, indeed, you see Pakistan, again, there is something which you cannot deny, that you always had, your geography had always been a factor which had been an opportunity for you and had been a curse for you as well. Because you were placed into a region where you were neighboring almost all the important countries of the region. You are neighboring India, you are neighboring Iran, you are neighboring Afghanistan, you are neighboring China. So when you are being placed into such kind of a jigsaw puzzle and you are placed into that kind of matrix, you cannot have the liberty of being ignorant to the security pretext of this region. And at the same time, if you come back, Pakistan, when it was off to take a start, it had a certain impediments. It was a seceding state which was, which emerged out of an Indian federation, a new state. There was an uneasy beginning. It was a kind of a murky beginning which Pakistan had to ensure. Plus, again, we could not have, as I earlier made a point that we didn't have political stability. That political instability did not lead to the precipitation of institutional stability. So when we didn't have the institutional stability, we didn't have the political stability, resultantly and consequently we didn't have a functional democracy. When we didn't have the functional democracy, it was like kind of a haphazard stints of military regime, civilian regime, military regime and civilian regime again. That leads to a kind of a puzzle, or that leads to a kind of an equation where Pakistan could never have had the liberty of making prolonged policies, a long-term vision where you could see yourself in, or where you could envisage yourself in next 2 decades. Because when you are unsure of what is happening the next moment, you cannot have that liberty of thinking beyond or thinking out of the box. So that had been one very significant obstacle which hampered Pakistan's prosperity, economic prosperity, and Pakistan's outreach into the global world. And at the same time, Pakistan had been recipient, say fortunately or unfortunately, to the developments which were of global significance, like say Afghan war, then war against terrorism.
So there's no doubt.
The way they have unfolded, you could not have kept yourself aloof from what was happening around.
With your neighbors,
yes. Yeah, with your neighbors, because if you see even in 2001, if you were not to join the war alliance with the United States of America, India was ready to be the part of that alliance. And given that disparity and that conventional symmetry of relationship in Pakistan and India, that could have been even more perilous and detrimental to Pakistan's security calculus. So it became a kind of an options choice. You could have negotiated in a better and appropriate manner, but you were to become the part of that alliance. You could not have kept yourself or steered yourself away or drifted yourself away from that alliance. Again, these foreign policy developments had became a kind of abstraction which significantly and profoundly put a pause, and if not full stop, then a comma before, ahead of your development.
But it's common to other Muslim countries also. That's my point.
But Marukh, none of those countries have that kind of geopolitical and geostrategic pretext like we are having.
That's true.
None of them have a nuclear armed neighbor who is so belligerent that is ready to pounce upon at any given point of time. When you are to think on your defense and you are to think on your security first, so your security comes first, then comes your economic prosperity and all those things. Then you have to see it in last point into the pretext of a post-colonial state formation as well. Pakistan had the symmetry of asymmetrical institutional growth, what Pakistan had experienced. So it is a classic thing which has happened in other post-colonial states as well, but Pakistan, since it didn't have that kind of prolonged stability, so that had led to kind of an institutional imbalance. That institutional imbalance again has become one very significant, rather predominant factor in Pakistan.
But how do we shed that now? How do we, I mean, of course, the disadvantage you're saying because of our position, our geopolitical position, our geographical position are there, but of course we have to rise above them, we have to move towards development, we have to change the situation for ourselves.
Marukh, things are going well, things are working for Pakistan. CPEC again.
I'm going to go to Durrani Sahab. Ji, Durrani Sahab, your comments on the fact that terrorism, of course, is something that both the Prime Minister spoke about, trying to deal with the issue of Islamophobia, like I said earlier. There are lessons to be learned.
Yes, and we are learning through hard way. We lost more than 70,000 people in this fight against terrorism. And we are one of the leading countries, which is also a success story. We have defeated terrorism.
True.
And now I think there is a hope in Afghanistan because of Pakistan's efforts, because we could neutralize those terrorists first on our soil, and then we could form a coalition of the regional countries which are steering this whole dialogue about Afghanistan.
Right.
Pakistan and America are almost on the same page in terms of bringing stability to Afghanistan. Terrorism, when we talk about in the popular term that now we know, it comes from extremist and obscurantist tendencies.
Right.
And we have to take a conscious decision that we have to make Pakistan a moderate, progressive Islamic country where there is no room for anyone to take the law into their hands.
Right.
This is what we used to be a normal country before the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan or before the Iranian Revolution. We talked about tourism. Pakistan was always full with tourists before the Iranian Revolution and the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan.
Right.
So these geographical and those geopolitical changes brought about certain bad things for Pakistan. But now things are improving.
Right, and we need to
then
rise above
when
these.
you talk about the political systems and all, it's again an ongoing process. It never stops. Yes, there could be glitches, there could be hitches, there could be roadblocks. But the political development in Pakistan has been taking place gradually. People's bent of mind is democratic. And you can only get democracy when you practice it.
Right.
So
and
there
it's
should
a
not
learning.
be any interregnums or intervals in
Right.
democracy. This is the lesson we should learn from ourselves, not from anyone else, because this has to be indigenous.
Right.
And then when you want to enter into cooperation with other Muslim countries, we have to tell them that they have to shun their differences. Right now in the whole world, only the world of Islam is under turmoil.
Right.
So they have to, you know,
Unite
resolve their differences through a peaceful means rather than resorting to military means.
Right. Unfortunately,
one last quick
that's
point.
all the time that we have.
Just one last quick argument I would like to add to his conversation, that countries, they are never fit or unfit for democracy. They are made fit through democracy.
Right.
And solution to bad democracy is more democracy.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Sameer Ahmed Aman Saab. Thank you for your time. Dr. Raja Kaisar Ahmed, thank you for joining us today. Asif Durrani Saab, thank you for being with us today. As far as our foreign policy is concerned, this visit of the Malaysian Prime Minister, followed by other visits from Saudi Crown Prince, followed by our own, the Prime Minister himself visiting Malaysia is concerned, certainly our foreign policy we have seen a kind of dynamic shift to it. We've seen the way that Pakistan is reaching out to its natural allies. We're trying to rebond our relationships with our friends. Let's hope that we can work towards that. Let's hope that we can further our areas of mutual cooperation with countries like Malaysia, economically, on a social front also, and learn from them, from their experience, from their moving to a developing country's status. Let's hope that we can learn all that. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.